Most professionals leaving corporate spend months researching business models and still pick the wrong one. Not because they lack information, because they picked based on what sounded interesting instead of what their financial situation could actually support. Here is the number that reframes this entire conversation. 52% of all businesses in the United States are owned by people 55 and older. The average successful founder is 45 years old. Founders with just 3 years of industry experience are 85% more likely to succeed than most of those without it. You do not have 3 years of experience, you have 30 or 40. That advantage is real. But it only converts into income if you pick the right structure for your situation. That is what this video is about. 7 models, honest cash flow timelines on every single one. So let's get into it. Welcome to Retirepreneur, where professionals 55 plus turn decades of expertise into income without risking what they've built. I'm Kurt Rose, CPA and former CFO, and I'm building this alongside with you. And if you're an experienced professional looking to turn your expertise into income, subscribe below so you don't miss a new video every week. Here is how we are going to cover this. 7 business models organized into 2 tiers. The first 4 you can realistically launch within 90 days, maybe up to 180 days with minimum capital. The last 3 require more runway and more capital, but they may have higher ceilings. I will give you the honest timeline and the honest trade-offs on every one. These 2 models sit right next to each other, and most people use the terms interchangeably. But they are not the same thing, and the distinction matters when you are deciding how you want to work. Consulting is project-based. You come in and diagnose a specific problem, deliver a result, and move on. The client is buying a defined outcome. Fractional executive work is a defined ongoing role, typically 8 to 20 hours per week. You are not delivering a project. You are accountable for that function's results on an ongoing basis. Fractional CFO does not hand over a financial model and then leave. They sit in the executive meetings, manage the banking relationships, and own the numbers week to week. Both models require almost near zero startup capital. Both can generate income in 30 to 60 days for someone with an active professional network. Here is the rate formula. Take your target annual income, divide by 1,000 hours. That is your realistic billable year as a solopreneur, once you account for business development, admin, and time you simply cannot bill. Then multiply by 1.5 to cover taxes and overhead. That number is your floor, not necessarily your rate, but your floor. The more important question is what the outcome is worth to the client. A fractional CFO who helps a company restructure its debt and reach $20 million in revenue is not billing $160 an hour. Price the value delivered, not just the hours worked. 60% of consultants get their first client through referral. Your existing network is already your launch runway. First dollar, maybe 30 to 60 days. Coaching attracts a different personality type than consulting, and it is worth being honest about which one you actually are before you commit to either. Consultants deliver answers. You are hired as the expert. You diagnose the problem and you tell the client what to do. Coaches facilitate discovery. You ask the questions that help someone find their own path forward. You do not tell them what to do. You help them figure it out. If you love solving problems directly, consulting is your model. If you love watching people work through something and arrive at their own answer, then coaching is your model. Most experienced professionals default to giving advice when they first try coaching. That is a different skill set, and it makes a difference in how referable you become. You do not need a certification to start, but you do need to learn the actual structure of a coaching conversation. There are good frameworks available. Investing the time to understand how a structured session works will make you significantly more effective from the first engagement. On income, most coaches start at $500 to, let's say, $1,600 per month per client on a one-on-one basis. As your practice matures, group coaching changes the math considerably. You serve 6 to 10 clients in the same session for the same hour of your time. The peer dynamic inside a group often accelerates results faster than individual work. First dollar, maybe 60 to 90 days. This model has the best long-term math of the 4 starter options. But the version most people think of when they hear course creation is no longer the right model. That distinction is worth understanding before you invest months building something. The old promise was simple. You build a video library once, you sell access to it repeatedly, generate income whether you're working that day or not. The premise is still real, but the execution is sort of broken. AI tools can now generate a competent answer, if you prompt it correctly, to almost any business question in 60 seconds. Your potential student can generate a reasonable framework from ChatGPT for free. A static video library at $297 is competing against that, and today, in 2026, it is not winning. The model that works in 2026 is course plus cohort. You delivered structured content and live facilitation together. Accountability, peer interaction, real sessions with people working through the same transition at the same time. A $50 course gets someone information. A $1,000 cohort gets them transformation. Your audience understands the difference and will pay for the outcome. Before you build a single slide, validate. Talk to 10 people who fit your target audience. Ask about their problems, not your solution. If 5 of them say they would pay for structured help to solve that specific problem, you have something worth building. If you cannot get to 5 out of 10, adjust before you build. First dollar, 3 to 6 months with proper validation. Quick question before we get into tier 2. Which of these describes where you are right now? Option 1, I'm still in corporate. I'm planning my exit in the next 1 to 3 years. Option 2, I've recently left and I'm figuring out which model fits my situation. Option 3, I have already started something and I'm reassessing whether I picked the right model. Drop it in the comments. I read every one of them, and your answer helps someone else watching this figure out they are not as far behind as they think. If you need income in the next 90 days, anchor in tier 1 and build towards these. But for some of you watching this, one of the next 3 is exactly where you're going to end up. Worth understanding now before the decision is in front of you. I'm going to be direct about this model because it is the one I chose and I know the exact cost and time before it generates meaningful income. Building a newsletter and a YouTube channel is a media business. You create consistent content for a specific audience. Over time, that audience becomes the foundation for affiliate revenue, product sales, and sponsorships that are not capped by your billable hours. No other model on this list compounds the same way over time. The audience you build is an asset on your personal balance sheet that grows with every piece of content you publish. I published my first Retirepreneur newsletter issue in July of 2025. That is my official start date, not my time during graduate school as I was designing Retirepreneur, the planning phase, but July 2025 is when the business actually began. I made this choice knowing the timeline because I believe the long-term asset has real value, but I also take periodic fractional CFO work to maintain real cash flow while the media asset builds. I'm not doing this instead of generating income. I'm doing it alongside a financial foundation that gives me the runway to do it correctly. If you need income in the next 90 days, media is not your starting point. Start in tier 1. Build this alongside it. First dollar for media alone, probably 12 to 24 months minimum. The franchise model we're considering here is not the image most people have of franchise ownership. We're not talking about working a shift, managing a counter, serving up Subway sandwiches. We're talking about running a business like the executive you spent 30 years becoming. You hire the managers. You apply the financial discipline. You provide the operational oversight. The franchisor gives you the proven system, the brand, the training, and the ongoing support structure. You bring the leadership. Several categories fit this model well for experienced professionals. Senior care franchises have strong demographic tailwinds. There are currently about 58 million Americans over 65, growing to more than 80 million within 20 years. According to Franchise Business Review, senior care franchises earn 25% more than the average franchise while requiring 25% less initial investment. Home service networks, HVAC, restoration, property manager, you will hire licensed technicians. You bring the business infrastructure. But before you sign anything, have a franchise attorney review Item 19 of the franchise disclosure document. That is a section with the real earnings data from existing franchisees, not the marketing presentation, not the sales consultant's projections, but Item 19. Franchise agreements typically run to 10 to 20 years. Read it with someone who is paid to protect you, not to close you. Your first dollar, 6 to 12 months from decision to open, but capital will be required upfront depending on the model that you select. This model skips the validation process entirely. You acquire something with revenue already attached. The trade-off is capital, complexity, and time. SBA 7A loans are the primary financing vehicle. Loan amounts can go up to $5 million. Down payments typically run around 10% plus working capital reserves. but the underwriting process is more rigorous than most people expect going in. I spent years as a CFO of an SBA lender. The deals that closed cleanly and performed well on the other side shared three characteristics without exception. 3 years of clean financials, a seller with a reason for exiting that made logical sense, and a buyer who actually understood the operational reality of the business they were acquiring. The last one is where corporate executives consistently underestimate the gap. A former VP of strategy who buys a commercial HVAC company because the spreadsheet looks good is walking into a set of operational challenges that a Fortune 500 playbook does not solve. You need to understand the business before you own it, not after. Budget for legal fees, accounting and finance fees, and other advisory costs as part of the acquisition cost. These are not optional extras. They are the due diligence that protects the retirement assets you're putting at risk. First dollar, again, maybe 6 to 12 months from search to close. Here's what I want you to take away from this. I just walked you through 7 models with the honest cash flow timeline on every one. Most content on this topic tells you to follow your passion. Find work that feels meaningful, do what you love. And that is not wrong. It is just incomplete for someone who spent 30 years building financial security and cannot afford to walk away from it on a bad bet. The model you choose has to match your financial runway first. The interest, the lifestyle fit, the long-term ceiling, all of that matters second. Get the runway right, and you can afford to stay in the game long enough to figure the rest out. I built Retirepreneur as a media business, knowing the timeline. I took fractional work to fund the runway. That was a deliberate financial decision, not a passion play. And it is the same decision I would walk any client through with 40 years of CFO experience behind it. You have more options at this stage than most people your age have ever had. You also have more to protect. Those two facts together are why the model selection matters as much as it does. Pick the one that fits the life you're actually living right now, then build. Before you go, listen, I bring a CPA and CFO lens to everything we cover here, but your situation is unique. Take what's useful, run your own numbers, and work with a qualified legal or financial professional on the decisions that matter most. Here's how we can stay connected. Subscribe to Retirepreneur so you never miss a video. A new one drops every week. And if you want the written version of everything we cover, join the Retirepreneur newsletter at retirepreneur.com/subscribe. The QR code is on your screen right now.